right, you have 5 seconds to be in your group. Shh, 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 shh. If you are not in a group, raise your hand. You need to be in a group. Okay, coach has got you taken care of. Okay, so first man, you've got 3 minutes. In this 3 minutes, you're going to review the reality of your fruit, to your feelings, to your focus, to the facts of what's working and not working. You may notice that some things have changed and or things you are going to be a little more honest about than the first time. So if that's the case, then feel free to share those also. Am I clear? Am I clear? All right, first man, you have 3 minutes, starting in 3, 2, 1, and go. All right, all right. Who's sharing here in the middle? Beautiful. Come up here. Grab your warm up. It's a load easier to hold on stage. All right, what's your name?
Jake Jorgevin.
And where are you from?
St. Louis, Missouri.
St. Louis, Missouri. Okay, shh, 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 shh. All right, Jake, what industry are you in?
I do lead generation.
Okay. What's the name of your company?
Lead Cookie.
Lead Cookie.
Yep.
All right. So talk to me about the current fruit, 2018. How much you take home total?
53,000 revenue. My take home, we'll finish out the year at about 90,000.
90,000.
My take home.
So how much in total revenue?
Be around 550.
Okay, great. So how much did you take home?
About 90,000.
90,000. Okay. And how much is currently available? Like if you had to just wire me some money right now, how much you still have left?
Got about 20,000 in the bank. And my
About
personal
20,000.
savings, not including the business buffer.
Okay, got it. So we got some business cash, but personally got about 20. We did about 90 this year. Okay, lifestyle. Talk to me about what working environments look like.
So lifestyle this year has been good. This is a lot of growth from where I was last year. So my wife and I are actually started able to pay for comfort, not always do the cheapest option on shit. And that has created a lot of freedom and just happiness for both of us, versus we just always bought the cheapest option before. We were in scarcity. So I'm finally able to actually spend money on doing a nicer experience, or not just being a cheap ass all the time.
Okay, how many can relate to this? 100%. Okay, cool. Hands down. How many can relate to the transition? Like when you went from the initial phase to, I don't have to just fucking order off the menu based on price. Raise your hand. All right, there's another one. There's another phase you get to too, which is you don't even fucking ask. Like you're like, I want that, I'm getting it. It's a very interesting place to be. Like, I want it, so I'm getting it. It's fun because people talk about what they don't want. Oh, I don't need this, I don't need that. Here's the reality. You don't know true agency until ultimately you can buy what you want. And then this other thing happens, which is you can buy what you want, and then you realize you're still fucked. How many of you had this experience? Raise your hand. So it's weird. We'll go through these phases. First phase is we get to this place of abundance, the first level. And then you'll double down on the business again, and you'll go back into scarcity. How many of you know what I'm talking about? Because the only way to get out of that level is to actually double down again, which means you'll actually go through a phase where you don't make any more. If not, you make less over the next year or two as you begin to build. How many have experienced this? Raise your hand. So it's this weird game, and this is why a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck and business owners get stuck at a certain level, because they just don't feel like they have the endurance to build anymore. And so instead of building, they go into prevent defense, which never works out. Like life becomes scary in prevent defense, particularly with people who are hustlers who have spent their life building shit, and then instead of building, they go into protector of what they have, which means the actual essence of protection without production is scarcity. It's a defense out of fear, not as a move to build a stage or a new floor to produce from. So if I protect what I'm building, that's great. But if I stop building and all I'm doing is protecting what I've built, I operate from a totally different fucking thought process. I'm not saying don't protect. I protect like a motherfucker. I build, I protect, I establish a new normal. Write this down. I must create a new normal. I must create a new normal. I must create a new normal. At one point, my new normal at that time would have been to be able to go to Applebee's, which is great, go to Applebee's and not stress out about how much things cost on a date. Like I was at a point, I was wanting that to be a reality for me. I could walk in, I could get the fucking fajitas, I could get a fucking margarita, maybe 3, in the big fucking watered down, big ass container. No Vegas pour going on there, my friends. And I didn't want to feel stressed out because I was a kid who didn't go to a restaurant but one time in high school. I'd never been to a place where you ordered off a menu. I went to buffets, or we had like, what's that called when people bring all the food to the house? The potluck, or the church parties with like the Jell-O and shredded carrots in it and some bullshit. Like I didn't have a fucking clue. I didn't know how this worked out. So a girl takes me to a dance my senior year in high school, and she puts down some money at the end of the dinner. Now, we'd gone to this nice steakhouse I'd never been to ever in my life. I didn't even understand. I didn't even have anything to wear. I was freaking out. I was uncomfortable the whole time walking into this restaurant. This girl had a little bit more money than we did. So it was a little normal for her, but for me, it was completely abnormal. Like walking in, I felt awkward and uncomfortable as fuck. How many of you have walked into an environment when it came to money where you're like, yeah, I don't really fit in this place? Raise your hand up. Okay? And all those who have not raised your hand up, you need to fucking get out more. Like this shit happens all the time. New normal's there. There's my house. I love my house. My house is beautiful. I live right on the beach in a private community in Orange County, California. My dream home and way beyond my blueprint. They built a house. There are 3 lots down from me, $24 million. 3 lots. My house, this house, this house, this house. I'm the broke guy in the neighborhood. We walked into this house. It's like an aquarium. It's a 12-foot deep pool. You can do backflips off the second deck. And the whole bottom of the pool is the bottom of the house with windows along the side where you can watch your kids swim. Now, it's crazy because I love my house. I leave that house and I come back to my house, and guess what I felt? It appears I'm in the cardboard box on the neighborhood. Yet, all that did was reestablish a new normal. Okay, so we have right now this new normal that you and your wife are experiencing, and it's beautiful. You're like, man, for the first fucking time, I'm getting to experience some freedom and not feel like I'm being choked out. Like I get to make some moves in life and buy my wife something for Christmas and not be like, fuck. How many know what I'm talking about? How many of you have been in a situation where the holidays are coming up as a businessman, but you ain't got shit? And you're like, what? You guys are like, fuck it, right now, let's go. Yep, I got you. I've been sitting there with less than $1,200 on a credit card trying to debate between how to not fuck up Christmas for my kids, yet still be able to have food. Yet know that I've got to make some moves to change my life. I sat there with my last $12,000 to $14,000, and I had to make a decision between paying my mortgage payment or hiring a mentor. Here was the reality I came to. The next month, my mortgage payment was still going to what? Show up. And the problem was I was still a fucking idiot. And I had nobody to talk to. Like it was a distinct, visceral moment for me to be in this place where I recognized that I was fucking stuck. Like I was stuck and there was no way of getting out of this by myself. And it was painful because I knew if I make the payment, I'm going to buy myself at least a week of feeling what? Calm. And then about 5, 6 days after I pay it, what's going to creep back in again? The fucking fear and the scarcity and the pain and the what the fuck and how am I going to do this? I used to have the same fears over a commitment to a cell phone contract with Cricket and a gym membership. Cricket membership was $19.95 a month. The gym membership was $19.95 a month also. That's a $40 commitment on a 12-month contract. I was freaking the fuck out. It took me 7 hours to make those decisions. I was walking around going, fuck. Like, this was the world I came from. I did not know money. I had no concept of building a business. I was not born an entrepreneur. I did not have money given to me. I did not go to restaurants. We loaded everybody into the station wagon and we drove like 20 odd hours to go to family reunions. Camping was our thing. How many of you camping was your thing? Camping was your thing. Like, my parents had to be cool with camping because camping was free. And I'm cool with that. I get it. My parents did the very best they could. But when I was a PE teacher and a football coach, somebody handed me a book. The book was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. How many of you read this book before? Look around the room. Look at the power of an on-demand piece of content. Look around. Hands down. How many of you can distinctly say that Rich Dad, Poor Dad and or content like this radically altered your financial path? Raise your hand. Hands down. So I'm glad and grateful as fuck that a man like Robert Kiyosaki, A, would take the time and energy and effort to write it, B, that he would market his ass off, and C, that he would close the fuck out of me. Not just on the book, on everything. Because I needed it. When I made that decision to hire that coach versus paying my mortgage payment, my wife was out of her fucking mind about it. She was like, not only was I not getting laid, but I wasn't getting laid before that anyways, because shit was going sideways real fucking fast. And I was an asshole, and I was scared, and I lashed out at her every 5 seconds. And I would sit, and I would record the calls with my coach. The coach I hired was a landmark form instructor. His name was Ron Zeller. He was in his 70s. He passed away a couple years ago. We had coaching calls that were $1,000 per call. I had 10 calls. I asked him if I could record them. He said, sure. I said, are you going to record them? He said, no, if you want to record them, you can record them. We get on our first call. Do you know what our first conversation was? How big of a fucking liar I was. And he shared something with me which is interesting. He said, integrity is an interesting principle. He's like, integrity doesn't guarantee you will win. But not having integrity guarantees you will lose. And I looked at my world and I was out of fucking alignment in so many areas. It was disgusting. And I was a fucking poser and a liar and a bravado builder and tried to pretend like I was a fucking tough guy and talked big and talked about all this shit. Yet inside I was fucking terrified. So I would have the call and then I would listen to the call 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 times every week. I would do the call and then I would just listen. I can remember moments shoveling the fucking snow and just listening. And having moments just standing there holding the shovel, fucking crying in my driveway, alone. How many have been in a situation where when the money was rolling, you had all these fucking people around you and all these people who wanted attention with you and all these employees who needed you and all these clients who thought you were amazing, but then shit went sideways and within months, everybody was fucking gone? Raise your hands. It was in that moment that I came to realize one simple principle, and I've been teaching it now for 7 years. Write it down in your war map. The king must eat first. The king must eat first. Part of my greatest challenge was the fact that I fed everyone in the kingdom but me. I was the last one to eat. I used to do this in my own events. I would be the trainer running my shit years ago, hustling on stage all fucking day long, and then I would go to break and I would let all my team eat first, and half the time I would end up with what? Food. And then I had to go back on stage the rest of the day. Like, it played out everywhere. The king in my world ate last. I thought there was some huge big gift I was giving the world by being the one starving all the time. I was twisted thinking that somehow my starvation and scarcity could actually produce abundance and possibility. This is impossible. You cannot create abundance from scarcity. If you're fucking starving, you look at people different. You just look at them different. If I'm starving in a relationship, I look at women different. I don't look at women as partners, I look at them as pussy. If I'm sitting in a situation in business where I'm fucking struggling, I don't look at prospects or clients anymore as members or students or partners in the game with me. I look at them as ATM machines, things I can take shit from. How many of you know what I'm talking about? Raise your hands. I've been there, you've been there, we've all been there. So occasionally we get to these pockets where we get to have this moment where we're like, yes. And guess what? The feeling at 90,000 take home and being in abundance is the same as 9 million take home. I promise you. That pocket of peace, I feel, you feel, same thing. It's the exact same feeling. These feelings we have operate on a spindle. They're vertical. The feelings operate horizontally. The level that you experience them at is the only difference. So when you're scared at 100 million, it's the same fear that you feel at 100,000. It's just felt at a higher level, but you are a bigger player. But here's the crazier part. The higher up that spindle you go, the higher up the spindle you go. How many of you know for certain that when 90,000 take home becomes 250,000 in take home, that our man up here on stage is going to face significantly different problems? Raise your hand. Hands down. How many know that when that hits 1 million take home a year, that he will have also faced an entirely new level of problems? Raise your hand. Hands down. Here's the reality. If I took my business world and I put it on your lap and you took the money I make, take home. Take home. My personal income taxes in 2018 were 3.7 million. Okay, that was my personal income tax. What I had to fucking pay the government. We just wired the money. That was after all the fucking Jedi moves we made. Okay, now if I took my business world and I put it in your lap and I said, you get all the money, here's the keys to the Lambo, here's the keys to the G-Wagon and the Bentley, here's the house, here are all your teams, I'm gonna take over your company, you take over mine, and we swap positions. You keep your wife, I'll keep my wife. We'll be good to go, but I'm pretty confident my wife would be leaving quickly. Your wife would be like, motherfucker, you're in Warrior for Life. For about 2 weeks. And about 2 weeks from now, the pressure of my world would fucking destroy you. That's just by 8 o'clock in the morning on Monday. How many of you know what I'm talking about? Hands down. Now, at the same time, the guy that's making $20,000 a year would be crushed by what he's facing. Or the man who's always been an employee of someone else, who then has to run his own show, thinks that he's equal in the game, but he's not. This man faces pressures because he's the one that writes the checks. How many of you have lost sleep over payroll? Raise your hands. Hands down. How many have been in situations where you are like, okay, it's 48 hours from now, payroll has to be hit. I have no fucking idea where this money is going to come from. Raise your hands. And then the crazy part is you have to still keep it together and walk into the office and emulate certainty that shit's going to work out. Oh, and then there's this other thing called a wife and kids. And typically in those environments, the entrepreneur goes into complete and utter survival. And you can experience this at any level. 450,000 in revenue, 50 million in revenue, 500 million in revenue. The feeling doesn't change, the pressure just changes, but as a player, you're bigger, which means you can deal with it. No difference between a man that can deadlift 135 pounds versus a man that can deadlift 600. The weight doesn't change, the capacity of the player does, which means there's no big deal. Bench test in college, the big fucking dudes that roll in, 225. Just like it was a fucking popsicle stick. Me, not the case. I roll into Boise State, 195 pounds. I hit 225 one fucking time. It was the most embarrassing thing in my entire life. I was horrifically embarrassed. It was just a good thing I was crazy and could fuck people up. But inside of this, what was the difference between me and Kevin Childs, the other DB from Washington, who was right next to me, who did it 17 times? Capacity. He flat out was stronger than me. I don't know how. I out-trained his ass all day long. He smoked weed, his bench would go up all the fucking time. I'm like, bro, did you train? You know it, bro. I was like, shut the fuck up, bro. I trained 6 hours today. He's like, I'll still get you. Which is true. And now he works at a high school in Washington as a janitor. I learned how to fucking work because I always was last. I was a slow fucking white kid. So it didn't matter. I had to fucking hustle hard. I was the broke kid with no fucking money from Stockton. I had nothing. I didn't have shit. Nobody gave me shit. People talking about me as some fucking trust fund baby. I'm like, fuck you, cocksucker. I didn't have shit. Nobody gave me shit. I paid for my own college. I paid my own bills. Nobody's ever floated me. I built all my companies from cash. I didn't borrow any money from fucking anybody. And so I'm proud of you. I am. You should be proud of yourself. Are you proud of yourself?
Yeah, it's been a good year.
Hell yeah. And you need to celebrate that. Celebrate it. Celebrate it. How many of you know you're shitty as fuck at celebrating wins? Raise your hand. Hands down. I celebrate them for a few minutes, maybe a few days, and then I set a new target. Now, what's a number that would make sense to you a year from now? It's WarriorCon 4. There's 3,000 guys here. You're standing here in this same place, and you're sharing with us the fruit of 2019. What do you think that number is for you? Take home. I don't care about revenue.
I want to take home $250,000 next year.
$250,000. That is the entire target of the Warrior Book Brotherhood. So there are some of you in here who feel like, fuck, Warrior Week, I can't get in, or it's not a fit, or I can't do it, or I'm this, I'm single, I'm not married, I don't have kids, I don't make enough money, I don't have this, but I want to live in this world. The entire intention was to build a system and a program and a process to be able to support you to fucking go where? What's the number?
250,000.
Say it one more time.
250,000.
It doesn't have to be your target this year, but the mission of Warrior is to build businessmen. It is also to build businessmen who desire to be in committed relationships and who desire to grow families. This is who we are. So regardless of where you're at in the process, whether you're at 90,000, we're going to fucking celebrate that. Well done. Well done. And now we say, okay, 250,000. That means I have to go 1 to 180. I have to go 2 times, 3 times more than what you did this year. How many team members do you have?
About 24.
Are they all like contract people hourly or how?
They're full-time contractors. They're all remote and abroad, so.
Okay, so you got a team building.
Yeah.
Okay, Russell Perry. You remember him yesterday, 2 days ago?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Russ Perry, when he started with Warrior, was doing around 20,000 a month or so. The last update I got from him just a month or two ago was around 900K a month. His entire fucking world has changed. It did not happen in one weekend. He committed himself to a process. Okay, so how much will you have in the bank at WarriorCon 4? Like just savings over here for you and your wife, not business cash.
We'd pay down all our debt, so we would have at least around 120K left in the bank after paying down all our debt with that 250K.
So you'd be debt free.
Yeah.
And you'd have 120K in cash in the bank.
Yeah.
Okay. What would work lifestyle look like?
I would be in a point where I am doing what I am talented at, not dealing with a lot of shit, not bottlenecked into my business and dealing directly with clients, which is a mistake I made for the past year and a half that I'm just now pulling myself out of. So I'd be focused on my unique abilities and what I'm really fucking good at and not wasting my time with shit that I've bottlenecked myself into the business.
Beautiful. So you're starting to see the path out of hustler into entrepreneur. How many of you can see this? Okay, hands down. How many of you know your current problem is that you have not made that transition from hustler to entrepreneur? Raise your hands. How many of you know that you're currently stuck in entrepreneur and are trying to figure out how to be more profitable by going to CEO? Perfect. How many of you are in CEO mode but have no vision from the king about where the fuck you're trying to go next? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you right now are just trying to master the hustle phase? Raise your hand. Beautiful. Let's do something real quick. If you took home less than $250,000 in 2018, if your take home was less than $250,000, stand up. Okay, so I want you to look around the room. And here's the part that's interesting. There's 28 million small business owners in the United States of America. I don't know what the global number is. They estimate around 28 million. The average entrepreneur in size space doesn't break 100,000. My average hairstylist and big money stylist does 25 to 27,000 a month. These are women who raise their own children. A lot of them are single moms. So there's a lot of skill sets and possibility inside of that. But look around, like there's a lot of guys that are right on that same target that are all pushing to that same place. Okay, have a seat. If you did take home more than 250,000 in 2019, stand up, or 18, excuse me, stand up. Okay, so we're about a fourth of the room did more, and 3/4 of the room did less. This is the big divide. Watch how these numbers work. If you took home less than or more than 500,000, stay standing. If you didn't, go ahead and have a seat. Watch how the numbers change. Okay, watch it again. If you took home 750,000 or more in 2018, stay standing. Otherwise, have a seat. Look around the room. The numbers just get smaller. If you took home $1 million or more in 2018, stay standing. And Naveen, this is why you and I both know, this is why it gets fucking lonely. And it gets fucking lonely. There's a price that's paid to get there, isn't there? Yeah, I'm looking right at you, bro. Is it a small price or a big price? Fucking massive. Like, notice what we're talking about. I'm not talking about $1 million in revenue. We got $500,000 in revenue. Can you see how if you're running around jerking yourself off to how much revenue you've done, that it's not the same thing as talking about how much you're making? Because in normal events we'd go to, my man up here could talk about his revenue and people immediately assume, unless they're established, if you're an established entrepreneur, you're immediately thinking a different question. But if you're not, what do you immediately think? He made $450,000. To established entrepreneurs, this is not the fucking case. You're immediately asking the same question. Okay, great. What are your margins? Like, what was your profit margin? And what was your take home? What were your dividends? What's the salary you take? How much of your personal life are you running through the businesses? What does this actually look like? Beautiful. The rest of you, go ahead and have a seat. So, big shift to take home. If 250,000 is your target, then you have to reverse engineer the number on the how. In a moment, you're all going to set a target for 2019, but you're not going to set it from fucking revenue. You're going to set it from a declaration of here is what I will take home as the king. And then from that place, you will reverse engineer out what is required to pull that off. Raise your hand if you're clear about this. Before. Tax strategy is a big deal. Like, I've been working on a tax strategy for almost 3 years and we fucking finally nailed it. And next year I will fucking cash in finally. Yes, at a certain level you'll get to a place where your actual economic moves become taxation. How do you keep, which is CEO mode shit. We put moves in play 3 years ago to finally get to a place where legally inside the game we can play a very intense strategy. So you've got your target for now. Don't get all fucking crazy with your taxes on it. Just what is the actual personal income for 2019? That is your target. And there's a second number. How much are you going to have still sitting in a vault? I'm talking about you didn't fucking spend it all. There's some shit left over. How much is left over? What is the number? And what is your lifestyle to pull this off? Turn to the person next to you and explain the drill that we're about to go through. Explain it, explain it. Okay, well, my man just stood up here on stage for like 30 minutes. And he didn't even flinch. And he owned his truth. Did you see this? There was no fucking apologies. This was the problem I had, is every time I would go to a room where I was winning in my world, I would talk to somebody who had numbers that were different than mine, and immediately I would feel what? I would feel fucking stupid. How long have you been in business?
I've been doing this since I was 19, and I'm 29 now, so 10 years self-employed.
Okay, and this particular business, how long have you been running it?
This has been 16 months.
16 months. Okay, well done. Like, you don't really hit tipping point speed if you grind every fucking day on it for about 6 to 7 years. So you're on path. But notice how it just owned it. It's like, man, I'm good. How many of you saw the smile? Yeah, that was pure fuck you. I don't give a fuck about your numbers. I know I'm getting laid and I got my fucking numbers handled. So inside your world, you need to own your number because you're going to be sharing and talking about this. This also means inside of the other side of the spectrum, don't devalue in your own mind somebody else's numbers because it's less than yours. Because everybody's fucking been there. You've been there on the first pass. How many of you have built and got your ass handed to you and are currently in the process of build number 2? Raise your hand. Hands down. How many have done this more than twice? Raise your hand. Okay. All right, gentlemen, let's give our man on stage the proper respect he deserves. But are you fucking country club clapping? Get on my tables.
Two clap. Two clap. Two clap.
Way to own your shit up here, brother. Take a seat. Gentlemen, you have an assignment. That assignment begins right now. I'm giving you, as you do this, do not just fucking write a number down. I want you to spend some time for a moment. Go to a clean page and start computing for yourself. Say, okay, listen, if this was my number, how could I reverse engineer this? You do not need to totally figure out how yet. But I want you to spend more time than just fucking pull a number out of your ass. How many of you have just pulled a number out of your ass before and it was bullshit? Raise your hand. Okay, this number needs to make your balls tingle a little bit. Like it needs to be a number that's like you know you're gonna have to do some shit. Like you're gonna have to change as a producer to pull this off. If you don't change, it's impossible. So this number needs to be impossible from your current situation. It has to fucking stretch you, but at the same time, it has to be close enough to where you don't just say some fucking number. I'm gonna make $1 billion next year. I'm not gonna fucking make $1 billion next year. And there's no amount of hype or DJ Robbie hitting the fucking drums that's gonna get me there, right? I have to set a number that is a clean target for me, for myself, for my family. So, gentlemen, I'm giving you 4 minutes on this. You're going to finish up the fruit. What is the take-home number? What is the keep number, meaning savings at the end of the year? And what will your lifestyle look like? Lifestyle will include teams. What team members may you be hiring or people involved, or what businesses might you change? What things might you be up to? This is a brainstorm session for you. You have 4 minutes starting in 3, 2, 1, and go.
The miracle will happen. It might not happen the first time you open it. It might not happen the second time you open it. But I promise you this, at some point this will fucking click and your life will be unrecognizable.
I became a different man. I don't compromise. I don't negotiate. I have this clarity and certainty of where I'm going, and I don't negotiate with anyone.
You can't put a dollar figure on that. And this right here is all the work, all the effort of all the men that have come before me in the palm of your hands. It's an opportunity for you to change your own life and change the lives of those that are around you.
And even in the start, I started to change. There's been a lot of work. I've done a fuck ton of work. I devoured the content once I got it. I studied, I worked, I studied, I worked. I made it my priority because there was nothing I was going to do that was going to help the rest around me, to me to be, you know, I didn't know how to be a better father. I didn't know how to be a better husband.
My relationship with my wife is on its peak. For that, I'm very grateful. My business has exploded, and that is because this concept of warrior is growing from the inside out.
And I just would say, why wouldn't you do it? Why wouldn't you take that chance? Why wouldn't you find enough value in yourself to make this decision, become part of a movement, a brotherhood? It's the best thing I've ever done.
It's too hard to do it by yourself. And I don't choose to do it by myself anymore, and now I don't have to.
The results came. I changed. I found my way out.
It wouldn't have mattered what that cost would have been, because I knew there was no price I could put on leveling up. There was no price I could put on my family and my kids and my wife and becoming a better version of myself. There's no price tag there's no price.
And the best news is in the decision, the change begins. If you decide, your life has already changed in that one decision, in that 1 second.